Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here, hosting this wonderful panel of colleagues from across the world. We have Pambudi from the Bluebird Group, Indonesia. We have Amarpreet Kaur Ahuja from AstraZeneca. We have Dina from Everis. And we have Rajiv Kumar from SumTotal. And I'm Aditya Sareen from Tata. The topic of this panel discussion is extremely intriguing. It is generating and nurturing an agile workforce, a necessity for employers. And I'm sure that, in the last couple of years that we've seen the COVID pandemic, we all realize that agility is at the forefront. And I'm sure that this panel is going to talk about various aspects of agility and how we as HR, L&D, OD leaders can contribute to making an agile workforce. My first question is to Pambudi, and the question is, what according to you, Pambudi, is an agile workforce?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Aditya. Great question indeed and very timely. Agility, flexibility, the ability to move and change fast according to the new directions. We do understand that the business is moving very fast with the digitalization, disruption, and no pandemics. So the business need to change fast, and the workforce, the employee, all of us need to go and change faster than we could. Whether it's building the capability, adapting to the new organization, adapting to the new customer behavior or consumer need, we need to do it fast. And that's what I call agility. I will close this answer by saying, when the speed of change outside you is faster than the speed inside you or your organization, that's the sign of death.
That's very well said. I think that's a very good point that you made. And therefore, we all do understand that agility is important for the workforce. But let me invite Rajiv here to talk about what, according to you, is an agile workforce when you're on the client servicing side, Rajiv.
So I think, one of the expectations that today businesses or HR was expecting from their employees, especially when pandemic hit, was that the employees need to be agile, adaptable, resilient, right? And obviously, some of these are, in some sense, are synonyms to each other. You can't today just expect people to be agile just because one fine day you're saying that, okay, I am ensuring that you work from home, so you have to be agile. I think there is a huge amount of effort that needs to go in building an agile workforce. And one of the key important things about building an agile workforce is to build a culture around it. And culture, when you say building a culture around it, it's not about the culture that has been existing for a long time. It is basically something that you practice over and over again. It's a behavior that you exhibit. So it's important that when you're creating an agile workforce, it is important that you communicate to employees what are you expecting when you are saying that you have to be agile. If your communication is clear, I'm sure, and if the communication reaches to the employees, I'm sure people will form an agile workforce which will possibly be ready to face any opportunity when it hits knocks at your door. Because the way things are, there will be very far and few opportunities that will come to you. And if that time you are not ready with an agile workforce, be rest assured you're not going to succeed. So I think the timing is important. The communication is more important than everything else when you have to build an agile workforce.
So that brings me to my next question. I think I'm going to put it up to Amarpreet. Amarpreet, why has agility become so essential in recent times? And do you think, you're from AstraZeneca, do you think that COVID has brought it to the forefront, or was it always there? Happy to get your views on this.
Thanks, Aditya, and thank you, Pambudi. I think you really kicked it off very beautifully in terms of, sharing your thoughts and views on what the agile workforce is all about. And of course, Rajiv adding on to his comments, calling it out very clearly as to how important it is for us as employers to communicate the whole piece, call it out and really upfront talk about it. You're right in saying that, Aditya. I think, while I would say at least for the last 3 to 4 years, people have been now talking about agility. While yes, to some extent, COVID has, fast tracked the whole process. It has fast-tracked the whole process of embracing digital, embracing that adaptability, embracing that flexibility as people were talking about. I think while all these are very important facets of the agile mindset or the agile workforce that we're talking about, what COVID has done is, I'll give you a clear example, let's say from AstraZeneca itself, or I'm sure all of you as HR professionals or OD professionals would relate to that. There was a time when all of us used to talk about onboarding or inducting your employees into the organization. We never thought that this could be a process which had to be done in a digital manner. Today, the time when the entire lockdown hit us, the entire pandemic hit us, what did we really think about? Okay, let's defer the joining of employees up to a certain period of time. But we did not do that. We business had to continue, the work had to continue. You quickly adapted to a new way of digitally onboarding your employees, digitally making sure that all of that is happening. So while there is so much which is going on, I think you're right in saying that COVID helped us move it to the forefront. We decided that yes, you really have to actually do the whole piece at the click of a button rather than just waiting for that experience, inviting people to this doing a face-to-face physical connect versus digitally starting on to onboard the employees. It took about a couple of weeks time to think through and decide how would you do something like that. But actually when you went ahead and decided the whole piece, it was transformational in its entire nature and form. But today, a year and a half later, that's the new normal. That's the way you're actually bringing on your people on board, making sure they have their laptops or they have their entire equipment and they're there. So it's about that whole mindset shift, but at the same time a transformation in itself, which is which COVID has brought forward, I would say.
So do I understand that agility was always on the agenda? Is it that maybe COVID has brought it to the forefront right now? Is that the right understanding?
Absolutely. It's really fast tracked the whole piece. People, the digital agenda was being spoken about, I would say. But actually, when you say the digital agenda was being spoken, people were talking about it from a space that, okay, another 5 years and we'll get there. But after the pandemic hit you, you actually turned it around in 5 months or less than 5 months. So the whole space has shrunk suddenly, and you're in a space that while it was supposed to happen, today it's happened in a very short span of time, I would say.
So can I continue this question and ask you that, is agility therefore catalyzed by internal environment or the external environment? What would you want to say on that?
Very interesting, Aditya. I think I would say that from an internal environment perspective, there are two ways of looking at it. Internally in an organization, I think the very thought process that the leaders bring to the table, the vision that they bring to the table is about embracing that change, embracing technology, embracing the new ways of working. So that's your internal setup, right? The internal mindset or the culture of collaboration, the culture of trust, all those pieces is what you could consider in an internal setup. The external environment is that pandemic that hit you, the economy that has hit the way it has. When you talk about it from the external perspective and mix that up, you top that up into your internal layer, you have to then be agile in terms of adapting to that new normal or adapting to that change completely. So you have that thought process there, but you decided as leaders that fine, this is our vision for 2025, but today 2025 is still there and we've already changed the way we would want to work. So that's the way you really look at the whole space, I would say.
That's very interesting. I think what you're saying is absolutely interesting. That it's a mix of both internal and external factors. But I want to ask the entire panel here, and this is something that's been on my mind. Are we equalizing agility with digital agility, or are we equating agility with other aspects of agility also? Because adapting digital mindsets, adapting digital technology, productivity, collaboration, tools, etc., is one aspect. Have we as HR people, have we as employers, have we as employees, have we as citizens been more agile in the way we've responded to the situation? I wanted to have all your views. What do you all say? Anyone?
Maybe I'll go. See, in my opinion, what happened in the last 2 years would have ideally taken 10 years.
Exactly.
So today, if you look at a B-class city in India, everybody knows Paytm, everybody knows Google Pay. Did it exist 2 years back? No. If pandemic had not hit, we would have possibly seen this after 10 years, right? So taking the Amarpreet's point forward, see, one is internal, one is external, right? Now, Aditya, what you said, digitalization, right? Now, a lot of people are saying that, okay, I have an HR system, so we are digital, right? Now, that is not a definition of digital. Now, point is, today when we talk about digitalization, gone are those days when we are expecting employees to embrace a technology or employees to embrace something. It has to come the other way around. Can't technology embrace an employee? Can't technology get addicted to an employee? Can't that change be brought about in a way that employees understand? Can't today we start saying that there is a lot of discussion around employee first or customer first? But today I was talking to somebody who's a CHRO of a pharma company, and he was saying that we could succeed in pandemic because when it actually hit us, we focused on business continuity, as in get everybody to work. And they were kind of a manufacturing industry, which I'd never heard about work from home policy, right? But it was music to my ears when he said that we as HR also started looking at how do we remove our dependency from China and build our own supply chain in India. So that was the conversation that an HR leader was doing, not a supply chain leader, which is that as employees, everybody, we have completely changed our mindset and we are saying, okay, let's look at business. Even if we are very internal to the organization, we have to have an external view, which is our customer. How do we as employees think differently, change our mindset to focus on what our customer wants, which is, for example, in banking industry, if I don't serve him well, he'll move to another bank. So what is that I can do in terms of digitalization to ensure less clicks or less visits to a bank? So I think, yes, there has been a huge mind shift in the way we look at our business models.
In fact, very, very important point brought out by you, Rajiv. And I think the highest order of agility that we have seen is the business continuity plan revamping. I don't think any organization that I would know of, and I'll be happy to be enlightened, did have a business continuity plan to manage COVID as a pandemic. They would have a pandemic plan, but they won't have a COVID pandemic plan. And this pandemic is very different, right? And I think the most agile organizations, the moment they smelled or sensed that this is coming in closer to India or even globally, they started mending or amending their BCP. And I think that's what agility is for maybe business continuity, because many of the businesses may have been wiped out had we not employers been very agile. I'm going to move on to, and now let's wear the employer hat. We're all HR people. We wear the employee hat every time. We wear the management hat. Let's wear the employer hat. Why should I have an agile workforce? How does it matter to me? Pambudi, can I ask you this question, that what as an employer are the benefits of having an agile workforce?
Yes, thank you very much, Aditya. And first of all, I would second and support fully the statement from Rajiv when he said that the digitalization is not the center of the business. The people is. We put sometimes an overstatement on the importance of digitalization. I was an IT engineer already on the year 1999. And at that time, I learned one thing. Your system is only as good as the people who operating it. And it is still valid today. It doesn't matter how great is your system. If your people are not eager and willing to learn and use it, it's not useful. Now, moving on to the agility. During this new context, again, Rajiv is right in the sense that the pandemic accelerates the transformation that we want to do. We should call the pandemic the CTO, Chief Transformation Officer, because the transformation that we wanted to do long time ago, finally it is happening now. I give you an example, a concrete example. I'm working in a taxi company, transportation. The taxi move people around in Jakarta and other cities in Indonesia. But we have pandemic. People have to stay at home. Jakarta is, for example, we put a measure where we limit the mobility of the people. The taxi traffic reduced by a lot. What are we going to do? We need to create and develop a new services, innovate a new services. Instead of transporting people, delivering the goods become now the key issues. e-commerce, mobile commerce is the king now. People still need goods. Instead of they order online and we deliver. So our company moving from transporting people to transporting goods. But it's completely different mentality, services, and the infrastructure that we need. An agile workforce will help us to make these things faster than anything else, because this requires a new capability, a new culture, a new way of doing things. The faster we embrace this, then the faster is the transition for the business. That's why, again, I will repeat, digitalization is not the center of the business. The people is.
Well, I think you've made a very important point here to all employers. If the people are important than the system, then agile people will make the system very agile, and therefore the business will be agile. I think that's absolutely a no-brainer. We've got it right in the first 15 minutes of the discussion, that if the system is not as important as the people, and if the people are agile, then agility in people is agility in the system. And agility in the system is agility in business. So I think for business continuity, Amarpreet, that we discussed a couple of minutes back, it needs agile people. And therefore, my question now is going to be to Dina and Amarpreet together. And that is going to be, how as we HR L&D leaders can help our organizations in nurturing an agile workforce. That's primarily the topic of our discussion. And if you could give us some examples from your respective organizations. So Dina, I'll pass it over to you first.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I think that if we see Agile as a mindset, that is what my colleagues are telling from the very beginning, it's a change of culture. We can think that the Agile mindset is very similar to the growth mindset. That is that people have the ability to change, to grow, flexibility, curiosity. So we are all talking about soft skills that we can develop through the organization. For sure, to be flexible, you should to be curious to new things. Flexibility, yeah, but this is part of our human being condition, because our brain is growing every day. So it's just to give the tools for them to grow faster, to repatriate brains faster. So we can help our organizations, the first, by working in these soft skills that are key for doing faster this change. The second one, and I'm going to repeat the same, is to put people in the center of the organization. If we think that this change is about people, we are going to think in a different way. So for example, in our case, I'm going to give you an example of something that we did that I think that is very easy to do. We talk about agility and agile organizations, but then how we communicate with our employees, how we connect with them by email. Is the email a really agile way or agile channel? When all of us are connected by phones, when we were told together by WhatsApp, why we use the email? That is something from Generation X, from the 90s. So we decided to do this in another way and to do more agile everything, starting from us, the role model, and putting our employees in the center of the organization. We decided to develop an app internally when our people can have their journey in their phones. So you receive notifications as any app. We have gamified all our processes. So if you go to this part of the journey, you can see all the activities that we have. People join and gain points if they join. So at the end, in a way, we create something for them, not for us, to communicate, to engage them with the things that we run, and to make more fun all the things that we run, because at the end, we are 8 hours a day or more in our job. So why don't we have fun? This is Agile.
Thank you. Thank you. In fact, I think that gamification that you spoke about is something interesting. I think we'd like to know more about it perhaps later. I'll move this right from London to Bangalore. Amarpreet, let's have your views on how do we as HR and L&D leaders help our organizations in developing, nurturing an agile workforce?
Sure. Thank you, Aditya, and thank you, Dina. I think very interesting perspective. Gamification is what is actually engaging thoroughly, the workforce of today, I would say, and that's clearly the answer out there. I'll give you an example, let's say from AstraZeneca itself, and this is a very, very key or a strategic pillar, which makes AstraZeneca a great place to work, and that's about embracing the culture of lifelong learning. It's very clearly crafted out as one of the key pillars, if we can call it, in terms of building or embracing the complete culture of lifelong learning. And in order to embrace that entire piece, and to Dina's point, the agile workforce of today is on the go. It likes that flexibility. It likes things as she was sharing on the mobile phones, on your applications, on your games, on the way you learn is a very, very smart and an agile way of learning. You don't really any longer sit in your classroom sessions and you attend an 8-hour training session, but the manner in which these learning are happening is through those snippets, is through those little clippings or your videos and things like that. Another example let me share with you, which is a very, very India specific example, is that we created what was called as the Netflix of learning. What that means is, of course, I'm sure all of you are aware of what Netflix is, and it's a no-brainer out there today, but creating that kind of curated content for your sales force or for your first line sales managers or your community of people or leaders, creating a content which actually connects you in the form of a web series as an example, and building that curiosity in them in order to make sure that they get glued to that learning. They get glued to learning through those little case in points or those little activities and examples actually is far more powerful than a classroom style of learning. So that's a fantastic example, and that's something that's thoroughly been embraced within the organization in the style of learning that I'm talking about. Another second example that I'm going to share with you is in our entire journey of inclusion and diversity by itself. What we are trying to drive is, you can correlate this very beautifully with the agility element or the mindset, is the behavior, the inclusion behavior of being curious, being courageous, and being collaborative. When we talk about these 3 C's, that's exactly what we are trying to drive in the entire culture or in the entire mindset, which makes people far more inclusive and far more engaged as a workforce in the organization. So how you drive that, I mean, there's a long story around it, but those are the key behaviors that we are trying to drive. And that's clearly the way I would say how the organization or the workforce is being nurtured towards, a much more higher engagement scores, if you like to call it, or a much more productive workforce, if you'd like to call it.
In fact, that's absolutely right. Because if you see, HR is the arm that gets talent into the organization, right? And therefore, we have a role to play in agility there. HR is the arm that gets people developed, or if I may say, that manages performance for the organization and the people. And even in Tata, where I work, we onboarded about a few hundred, of our Cadre recruits, which are the management trainees, the graduate engineer trainees. And not only did we onboard, but we went ahead and interviewed them. In fact, we floated our positions, everything online. We got them onboarded online. We ensured we're a company across India. We ensured that they're all safely and their facilities are given to them. They're very well taken care of. Tata acquired 4 Odisha discoms during this pandemic, and our manpower had to move. We're essential services. We provide power so that the ICUs and the hospitals work. We provide power so that each one of us could have worked from our home and had the internet and the lights on. So at those critical junctures, we had a task at hand to ensure that our people are very safe, they're taken care of. We started doing things online. We had 3 different types of work strategy: work from office, which is work from office because it's site, work from home, and work from office and site. So we had multiple ways of people to work. Our learning and development programs moved online. Our entire learning platform is already online, and we did what you did, Amarpreet. We had that Netflix of learning, etc., that was already there, and we ensured that our leaders, our managing director, our CHRO, our respective presidents, They were on the premise talking to employees directly live from a plant, So it's not that I'm sitting in my office and, giving you talking to you via video conferencing, but I'm actually on premise and I'm talking to the entire family of Tata Power from a premise. That means I'm leading by example. And I think leading by example by saying, I am here so that you are safe at home and the function and the company runs is a big messaging. We did our annual R&R function absolutely online. We are a company which is 107 years old, if I may say young, and we have a lot of rich legacy to bank on. But all our workforce, our leadership, families quickly adapted to it, and I think HR already had a seat on the table. I think the seat was even firmed up by the way HR led the BCP this time. So imagine the transformation that HR has done in various companies. I mean, all of your companies and ours to do. Therefore, I think that HR does have a role right from recruitment to the entire employee life cycle to not only perhaps hire, but then develop and nurture an agile workforce. But I'm going to ask you a question, Amarpreet, here. Do you think stability is detrimental to agility? Because we're all talking about agility, which is driven by technology, which is driven by the pandemic, which is driven by market scenarios, which is driven by sudden disruption in business models. And therefore, let's assume if we go back 30 years, 25 years, you think agility was not there and we could have been complacent? Let me have your views on this.
Sure. So thank you, Aditya. I think thank you, first of all, for sharing your perspective about Tata Power. Very, very great examples about, leading from the front and really sharing, what the HR leaders have, kind of transformed the way things have been. So it's a fantastic example. So thanks for sharing that. Coming back to your question, particularly, and the way I look at it, I'm going to share a very simple thought and something which I shared even previously. But let's look at it like this. When we talk about stability and we talk about agility, on two sides of the spectrum. When we talk about stability, in my mind, I have correlated that into your in a space of your internal environment for a moment. When you say stability, let's say just equate it to your internal environment or the internal equity, which you have control over as an organization. And on the other side, when we talk about the agility element, for a moment, let's connect that to your external environment. And when we say certain things which could add to your environmental context or add to a context which we may not have had so much of control over thanks to the pandemic and stuff like that. So when you talk about the stability part, somewhere, I think as the CEOs or the CHROs of an organization, the stability element or the internal quotient, which is a space where you have control over, for me, it's about that long-term vision, that thought process that the leaders have, and that's something that they are clearly articulating to their employees about. Here's the future sense of direction, here is where we want to get to, here is where the next your 2025 vision looks like, etc., etc. So when you talk about it from a perspective that there's a stable mindset of a leader to think beyond, to think what it should look like, and then getting your organization to move in that direction. So let's for a moment say stability is that piece, versus on the other side, you have that external environment, which is always going to be there. You'll always have that external factors, which will have an influence, which will have a challenge to throw up to that external context. Sometimes the economy is really going down to dogs. You really don't know what to do about it. Or certain times when now the pandemic situation. So our ability to, use that internal core, that element that you have control over, use that as your strength, as a leader, to potentially say that, yes, all these other external factors can be worked upon, because when you can't have control over certain things, then just live with them, be with them, and adapt to the way things have to change. So in some form and shape, I would say it's not detrimental to agility. They go sort of hand in hand, that you use one for your core and that external element sort of revolves around it. So that's the way, if you visualize the whole space, you'll realize that as a leader, what you have control over is what you work with, and let the rest of it sort of go along the way on the journey.
That's the power of the ET Future Skills Conference. Look at the perspective that Amarpreet has gotten. If you have inner stability, it's not detrimental to agility. In fact, it facilitates agility.
Absolutely.
If you have control on how you think and how focused are you, and you're at peace with yourself is when you can actually be agile and responsive, right? And not reactive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I quite like that, that shift that you brought, that stability is internal, whereas the agility is with responsiveness to the external environment, and that is out of our control. So how can I be stable for something which is out of my control, right? So if I am stable inside, and if I'm, and as an organization, as a leader, if my strategy, if my employees are also stable with me, then together we can actually address any situation in an agile, responsive manner. But I'm going to ask the other panelists, perhaps Pambudi, Dina, Rajiv, what's your view? Do you feel the same as Amarpreet and I do, because she's been able to convince me on this? Do you feel the same, or do you say, hey, no, if everything is stable, then why do I need to be agile? Because everything is granted, right? So can we now look at the external environment being stable, and then we have an issue in being agile? Is that a contrary view, Rajiv, Dina, Pambudi? Assuming the external environment is also stable, the business is stable, the people are stable, everything is stable, why do I need to be agile? Do I really need to be agile and responsive to things? I'm doing fine. Let's have your views. Yes, Dina, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Because if you are doing always the same, you are always achieve the same results. So this is the best answer that you can say, that you can give or provide. So for me, Agile is not just the answer of the current context. It's not the answer to a certain moment of time. For me, Agile is a mindset, for me and for all of us, because it's what we are talking. It's a culture, it's a vision, it's foresight. So to be agile is to be able to achieve great results and to be ambitious, not just to be I'm going to say it, a visionary, but to be ambitious to go there. You need this agile mindset to go there. With a fixed mindset, you are not going to achieve incredible, outstanding results.
In fact, that reminds me of a quotation that I read a couple of days back. No matter if you're on the right track, you'll be run over if you just sit there. So if I think I'm stable, imagine your car is on the highway, you've got on the right track, your GPS is on, you say, now I'm going to be absolutely slow and steady because I'm stable. And here from behind, somebody who's even extra stable comes and just runs you over. So I think it's important, friends, therefore, to be agile. And I think it's important to be agile to be able to forecast perhaps what's going to be in the future, and which we generally call as proactive thinking, where we actually, sense what's going to happen and we start preparation. I think that's quite an important view that Amarpreet has given. I'm going to move on to the next question, and this again is going to be to Dina and Rajiv. See, do we feel that we have been valuing agility and evaluating it in our hiring processes till now? Or have we been hiring because you're from that B school or this engineering college or that company or this company? Have we actually ever evaluated agility? And another question that I think I find in my career that I've been asked or I've been asking is, you've changed a lot of jobs. You're not stable. So if I'm not stable, am I not agile? And if I'm agile, then are you evaluating me that way? So I'm going to ask this question to all of you, but I'm going to go to Dina and Rajiv first. Have we ever fairly evaluated agility in our hiring processes? Dina.
Okay, so I think that we have been talking about that. We can be able to evaluate this agile mindset by evaluating during the hiring process how much curious is this person, how much flexible it is, how even us, because we are talking about how we are going to evaluate others, but how much agile is our process, or we are constrained into a specific process, step by step. Are we adapting as well to our interlocutor, to the people that our candidate? Is he adapting to us? So at the end, it's depending of each company. Responding to the second question, so there are companies that have been always hiring, having into account soft skills, evaluating cultural fit, and there are other companies that do that have a list of technical skills or knowledge that have to fit. It's depending. I think that the success of the organization depends on this fit between the individuals and the organization in a cultural term, not just with a list of knowledge or technical skills. And I think that our behaviors help us to perform or to success in our roles, not just our knowledge. So for me, we can hire through soft skills, and we can evaluate in the hiring process this behavior, this agile mindset. I don't know, Rajiv, if you think the same, but I think that it's...
Rajiv, you've been working with a lot of clients. I'm sure you have a lot of CHRO friends across, so tell us, has this discussion ever come up? Agility?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with what Dina said. See, I was talking, I won't name the customer, but I was talking to a manufacturing industry and somebody who's in the automobile industry. He came up with two situations. One, he said, we surveyed all our employees during pandemic. And one interesting fact that came out was that 95% of employees do not want to leave this organization ever. So he's saying, I'm very stable. My culture is that I have a great stable company, right? But my problem is twofold. One is that my employees who are working at the shop floor level, connecting different pieces of an automobile, today have to work on chips. But that is what customer wants. So, which means that there has to be agility that has to be brought into my employees. Second thing is that because they have been sticking around with me for a long time, they're expecting a salary increase. If they continue to do the old job, I can't give them a salary increase. So I have to change their mindset, make them more agile. The second thing he said, that agility is about behavior, is about a culture. The behavior that somebody exhibits at a corporate office level is very different from a plant level, right? So which means that if I have to hire somebody at the plant level, I would like to get somebody who maybe, and this was a statement which a lot of people might object to, that if he is a hanji kind of person, he will settle in very fast in a factory environment. So even if he's coming from an IIT or IIM, which is premier colleges in India, because he has been in that personal upbringing where he's always respectful, where always bowing down, then he settles in very fast. And if he comes to a corporate office where our culture is that you have to address us by first name, he may not succeed. So yes, when we look at hiring graduates, we look at agility from a behavior perspective, not from a culture perspective, but from a behavior perspective. Is what is the kind of upbringing he's had, what is the kind of the way he talks, the way he addresses people. I think that is also becoming very critical for continuity of this workforce in today's environment.
Pambudi and Dina, just for your reference, Hanji is a yes man. Okay, somebody who just says yes and yes and yes. So I just thought I'll just bring that flavor to get you on the same page. Amarpreet, you've been, you have an illustrious career with you, and behind you. Let me ask you that, have you, or, the companies that you've worked for, or people that you know, I will make it generic, have you ever evaluated agility while hiring until recent times?
So I'll be honest with you, Aditya. I would say no for an answer. I'll be very candid here. I think while we all have been talking about different perspectives, but for a very long period of time, we have not evaluated agility. What we have evaluated is the competence, the job experience, the behavioral elements around it, whether a person is able to do XYZ or not, and, their experiences. And there's this old cliche, concept of behavioral event interviewing, right? And it's only of late and only recently that you started evaluating or using that lens, that complete lens, that adaptability, can that flexibility, can that change in mindset be which is the need of the hour today? Is that something which a person really demonstrates in their examples, in their risk taking, in their style of responding to questions? I think to a large extent, a lot of that is being looked at today. But in the past, I would say the answer is a clear no.
Can I add something, Aditya?
Yeah, please, Pambudi.
Good. I would say the same thing, and I would support that. I am HR director in Citibank before, Danone, and in the telecom industry, now in the transportation. What Amarpreet is saying is correct, in the sense that in the past, we are evaluating too much on the competence, experience. I would add one more, which is diploma, CDE. While sometimes, and this is what people write in their CV, the problem is people with the right CDE, competence, diploma, and experience, may not be culturally fit. I like to use the analogy of the zoo. A fish would swim very well in the pool, a bird would fly in the sky, a horse would run in the grass. What does it mean? To all the different talent, they need the right habitat. What do we need to assess? ABC, attitude, behavior, and culture fit. And therefore, agility is part of this. Our user, our line manager, our other director, focusing so much on the CV. I'm sorry, many people lie in their CV, perhaps including you and me, let's be honest. The reality, unfortunately, is we need to go beyond, peel the onion, look at what is really people about. Have you been bullied in the past? Have you been struggled? When you make a big change in your life, what did you do to survive and excel? What are your commitment to your own personal learning? All these type of questions that would somehow reveal a lot under ABC. So remember, attitude, behavior, and culture fit. ABC often is much more important than the CDE, competence, diploma, and experience.
Well, phenomenal explanation, Pambudi. That also triggered my abbreviations, thoughts. And I think that we have hired for education, experience, and exposure, right? We've not hired, when I say we, I'm talking generic, for elasticity, and that is adaptability, and that is agility, right? We haven't checked elasticity. Coming to your example of the onion, what happens is that, we start peeling the onion, we peel the first layer, and we either lose interest or we don't have time to go deep into the onion. We have so many onions to peel. I'm giving your analogy back to you, that we say, okay, let the onions come in. I'm sure I'll be able to, cook them and, dry them and fry them. Unfortunately, if we put concerted effort in actually peeling and going to the core, we will actually start evaluating agility. I'm going to pose another question, and this is going to come to Rajiv and Dina. I will ask you whether our HR systems, performance management systems, learning and development systems, leadership development systems, or our talent systems, did they really focus on agility in the past, Dina? And then obviously, Rajiv, you have that, you're servicing clients, so I'll get your views there.
I'm going to say not. I'm going to say for at least our system, the one that we are using, are a complete nightmare. Now, I think that the system that we have used are very focused in the processes and constrained into the processes. They are thought, they were thought in a very fixed mindset. So it's all around very defined steps and very defined ways of working. And at the end, this is driving, or has been driving, what we expect from our employees, and the worst, that is what our employees can expect from HR. So I will say not. I think that we are changing. I saw you a way of change this and do everything more agile and faster and adaptable and less constrained into process and more release and open to the new to this new normal.
Rajiv, last 30 seconds with you. If you could just give a quick summary of whether these HR systems have been really focusing on agility. 30 seconds.
Okay. No, I also agree with Diana. No, absolutely no. Because, for example, a lot of people started investing in learning management system because everybody was doing it. There was pandemic, everybody wanted to invest in LMS, so everybody did it. Not everybody thought whether it actually makes sense for that organization. A lot of organizations invest in succession planning systems when they're very sure that they would only look at 1/3 of their entire employee base as successor pool. What happens to remaining 2/3? You expect them to be agile, you communicate agility, but when you come into practice, you don't even look at them as a successor, right? Same with learning, right? I want to look at I want to push courses to everybody. I don't look at the individual development plans. It's like Netflix, right? I want to watch a romantic movie, but you're pushing an action movie to me, right? So I think there are systems, but they are not practical. They are not focusing on the H part of HR, which is human part of HR. We are expecting humans to be agile. We are not expecting systems to be agile. So let system be agile to make humans agile.
Very well said. I think that couldn't have been a culmination thought of this session, that let people be agile and let people manage systems with agility to be able to be responsive. I think that's a very good thought. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who are watching us right now, we're all HR colleagues, learning and development, OD, talent colleagues. It's important for us to understand that the human relations in HR is extremely critical. And I think it's for us to ensure that we nurture agility in a systemic approach for people, and not that we push systems that are agile to people. I think Rajiv made a very good point there. And I think in today's session, if you see, we covered what is an agile workforce. We spoke about, has agility been, in the forefront now in the recent times, or has COVID, if I may say, fast forwarded it? How does an agile workforce help employees? Aspects of how HR L&D leaders can help nurturing an agile workforce in an organization. We also discussed a very, I would say, a unique element of is stability detrimental to agility. And I think Amarpreet brought a very good point that inner stability is going to help you, manage, external agility. We spoke about, is agility really being, evaluated in hiring? And I think we got an answer of a clear no. If I may say, for everybody who's watching, maybe the answer was not a full no, but it was nearing no. We spoke about agile HR systems. I think Rajiv mentioned systems are agile, people are not agile. We're focusing on systems, not on people. We want people to use systems. It's a conundrum. Okay, I think we'll make it simple. People are your greatest assets. I think Amarpreet's smiles tells me all about it. People are our greatest assets. Therefore, focus on making people agile by ensuring that you have an interaction at a one-to-one level. It's actually N is equal to 1 kind of interactions. Understand people are different. There's no one size fits all for agility for people. There's no capsule that Amarpreet can develop and you swallow it and say, I'm agile from tomorrow. It won't be possible. It's for us in HR, L&D, talent, and OD to actually make people agile. And for that, I think the mantra that I'm taking back from the ET HR Future Sales Conference is agility is important in today's time. It was always important. Agility will happen when your people are agile, and agile people will run systems that are agile, and the organization will be agile. As HR people, get the right people. If you've gotten the right people, help them develop, make them agile. Till we meet next time, here's wishing each one of you good health, safety, and well-being. Thank you, Pambudi. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Amarpreet. Thank you, ETHR, for having us all here. I enjoyed this session. I'm sure each one of you will. Many thanks. All the very best.